My hot take is that all product managers are leaders, independent of whether or not you are a manager. And the sooner we embrace that and what it means to be a leader and we work on our leadership skills, the better we will be as product managers. You may not be leading in a larger scale, but you have the opportunity to lead on your team.
Hello and welcome to another episode of One Night in Product, Hot Takes Edition, where I speak to one person about one thing, get straight to the point, and find out what's on their mind. Now, if you've got something on your mind, why not head over to onenightinproduct.com/hot, where you can find a time, grab a slot, we can have a chat, we can share your opinions with the world. But even if you don't have anything on your mind, remember to head over to onenightinproduct.com anyway, where you can find all my old podcast episodes with thought leaders and practitioners, all my other hot takes, and links to the podcast, all your favourite podcast platforms, and on YouTube, where you can like, share, subscribe, and all of those things you do over there. Anyway, enough of me. Let's get straight to Tami Reiss's hot take. All right, so in front of me, I can see a wall of white books, and I'm not even really sure if they're real books or if they're fake books. It looks like they could be real, or maybe it's just wallpaper. In any case, I also see a person who's already trying to talk over me and a big plant. So I'm going to throw straight over to you, let you talk, and I'll shut up. Let you tell me who you are, what it is you do, where you're based, and most importantly, what's your hot take?
Hi, I'm Tami Reiss, also known as Tami from Miami or the Product Leader Coach, and I live in Miami. Memorable for everybody. And I work as a public speaker, trainer, coach for product people, tech teams that don't even involve technology. And my hot take is that all product managers are leaders, independent of whether or not you are a manager. And the sooner we embrace that and what it means to be a leader and we work on our leadership skills, the better we will be as product managers, the better we will be at developing awesome products in the world. And that's my hot take.
Right. Okay. Well, predictably, I have questions. Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. But I guess the first thing that someone listening to this, let's just sort of paint the scene. There's a poor, long-suffering product manager sitting in the back room of some big global corporation, and they're just sitting there being told by their boss, who's being told by their boss, being told by their boss to execute on a prepared list of things or some just requirements that have come from up on high, and they're just being judged on how quickly feature factory. They're being judged entirely on just getting that stuff through the shop and delivered and moving on to the next thing. And they might listen to this and say, Tami, that does not represent my life at all. What do you say to that person?
I would say you're right that you may not be leading in a larger scale, but you have the opportunity to lead on your team. You don't love that. Probably everyone on your team doesn't love it either. And if you think about how do I feel at the end of the day? Are you filled with pride? Are you filled with warm, fuzzy feelings of the work you're doing? Ask yourself, are the other people on my team feeling that way too? And then you can say, what would I want to make that different? What would make my role, the hours I spend in this role, in this company, make me feel better about the impact I'm having? And to me, that starts with having a vision. And you can set a vision at any level. So you can say, this is our vision for our type of users and what's going to happen to them. Those users could be developers. Those users could be accountants. Those users could be salespeople or business people or small business owners. But the second you attach the work you're doing to another human, you start feeling better about it because you're helping someone. And if you're going to feel better about it, so will everyone else on your team. So start by establishing that story and start talking about that story of who it is you're helping. Don't call it customer value or business value. Those terms aren't meaningful to our hearts and our souls, but we're helping this type of person save time, make more money, be with their family more, impress their boss, right? What are we really doing? And you can do that at any level, even if your executive OKR is revenue growth, and the layer below that is revenue growth, and the layer below that is revenue growth, and the layer below that is product features, which might lead to revenue growth. And you just have been told what you need to build that someone else established is going to potentially create revenue growth, which is the least inspiring metric of all time because it doesn't really help anyone on the ground. And you can change that for your team and start there.
There's a thing that kind of popped into my head as you were talking there around this idea of even if you're working in, again, under the kind of the COSH, the kind of the all-seeing eye of Sauron leadership, and you're just getting to do your little piece. That there's almost a kind of a requirement for you as the product manager to kind of almost put on a brave face, even if you're not feeling it, to try and make sure that the team feel inspired around the things you talked about, vision, like making sure that there is a vision. Obviously, that's part of it. Making sure that there's a strategy and making sure that you're kind of advocating for that and standing up in front of that, and to some extent doing the jazz hands around that. Is there some kind of, yeah, there you go, there's your jazz hands. But is there this kind of idea that the product manager to some extent has to throw themselves kind of on the grenade a little bit if they are in a maybe like a less than ideal situation, that they can kind of take some of the slings and arrows and represent that back to the team in a way that is inspirational in some way, and kind of that's part of the job? Or do you think that there's always a way to try to make it so that they also feel it themselves? Because both of those could have the same effect on the team, but the product manager's then on the front line, right?
A little bit of both. Number one, you are the one who's going to get in trouble if you don't deliver results. No one's going to get mad at the engineer or the designer in the way they're going to get mad at you. So you have a sense of responsibility, even if you don't have the title of leader, right? Those people may not report to you, but you are still the leader of that team. And you can be a stronger leader or you can be a weaker leader. Part of being a stronger leader is setting a vision, but part of being a stronger leader is also opening space for other people to lead. I did my talk of Life's a Pitch with a group of designers who work within one of these big companies, and they were really frustrated that product wasn't listening to them.
Yeah.
And they wanted to learn how to express their ideas in a way that product would listen. And they came to me as a product person who had empathy for product people to understand what is it that product people might listen to. But the bottom line is that pitch and the engineering pitch of we should try out a new technology, or the product pitch of, hey, we should have a vision, or I think that these two teams should actually combine, or whatever it is you're pitching, is all the same skill. It's all the same. I need to talk about what it is that I think is ideal. I need to understand why it's valuable to you, whoever's listening, and mesh the two. And the sooner all of us learn that, which is like a core fundamental leadership skill, it's called influence. And guess what? Influence without authority in product management, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Certainly
You got
is.
to master it on your team first. Like influence those people first and then start influencing others.
But you might sit there, and some might sit there and hear, oh, well, product managers are leaders and they should be doing all of those things to their team. And they might go too far the other way, which is something that I've seen with teams where not only are they there trying to kind of lead with vision and try and do all of the things that we talked about, but they also start to maybe sort of go a bit too far into, ultimately kind of micromanagement of the team and start being almost proxy engineering leaders or proxy design leaders, because they feel that everything is their responsibility. No one else is going to take it up, and that they therefore get to tell everyone what to do. Is that something that you think is a common, almost overextension? Or do you feel that, or even if it is common, do you think that there are ways to be that leader without extending so far that you're not being that kind of micromanager person that then everyone's going to kind of start to push back on?
So first of all, I have been that product manager, like a good
We've
10
all
or
been
so
that
years
product
ago.
leader.
You know why? Because someone had the nerve to tell us we are the CEO of the product, right?
Yeah,
Whoever came up with
Ben
that word
Horowitz.
oh, it's Ben?
It was good product manager, bad product
It was
manager.
part of
the
good
essay,
product
right?
manager, bad product. I wasn't sure. So good to know it was Ben. Detrimental to the entire industry. And Ben has done fantastic work, and that is a fantastic piece. And the misunderstanding of that term, in the same way, the misunderstanding of how to implement OKRs has been detrimental. It's not that the OKR is detrimental. It's that no one really understood that it was supposed to be aspirational and inspirational. And because they missed that piece, it doesn't work. So similarly, CEO of the product, when he said that, what he meant was create a vision. Understand you're not going to own all the pieces, because a CEO gets that. And they hire people with expertise who own their place on a team. And they're setting a compass, they're setting direction with this vision, but they're not going to micromanage. But I know that there was a point in my life where I referred to the engineers as my engineers, my designer, my team. And I was working at Pivotal Labs at the time, and Graham Steiner was like, Tami, they're humans and they don't belong to you. And I was like,
Everyone belongs to
yeah,
me. That's what you should have said.
it's such a power of words thing. Like, I talk a lot about the power of words and the nature of executive presence and the nature of your title, right? I'm saying don't worry about the title. By giving yourself the title of not leader or CEO, you put on a certain hat. We associate things with that. Know that you're a leader, and what leadership means is to set direction and let other people thrive, to empower those people to do what they're good at, to equip them with the tools and the guidance to let them own their piece, have mastery, have purpose, have authority over their area. And that what you're really trying to do is surface the best ideas. And if you're taking too much of the reins, you're not going to surface the best ideas. And I learned something when I was at JustWorks. So I had been at Pivotal Labs where I was a consultant. I had run a consultancy, and then I went back in-house at JustWorks. This was like culture shock for me, because when you're a consultant and you say anything, someone has paid somewhere between $250 and $500 an hour to hear you talk. So by definition, they trust you. You walk in with gravitas. When you're just a regular employee on a team, right? You're just like anybody else. And so I walked in with like a consultant nature of like, I'm going to share all these brilliant ideas. And my boss, who's now actually the GM over at New York Times Cooking, sat me down in one of our one-on-ones and she said, Tami, and this is something I repeat to so many executive clients, the success of any initiative is the byproduct, meaning like multiplication byproduct of the percentage right the idea is, like how brilliant the idea is, and the percentage buy-in the team that's going to work on it has. Which means you could be 100% right about an idea, but if it's like 10% buy-in, it's going nowhere. And you could only be half right about an idea, but you have 100% buy-in and you're off to the races and you get momentum. And that has been a total mind shift for me. Because she said, if the people are not bought in, if you do not open the door for them to feel bought in, you're not getting off the ground. And she's so right. And what's amazing to me is in the years since then, it's been like a decade, I've realized that authority is a myth everywhere. That we think once we get a certain title, we're just going to be able to talk and people are going to listen as if we were consultants. But in reality, we have to build our credibility and we have to still inspire. Even if you are the CEO, the best CEOs are leading with vision. They're talking about the world they see. They're talking about the future they want to create. They're painting a picture in people's minds. And the CEOs that forget that and they talk about revenue instead, their companies go downhill. They lose employees. Retention starts going down. Their customers are less likely to renew because they don't feel inspired either. And so everyone needs to learn this as early as you can. And then you need to realize it's a skill forever. Like you never have to stop influencing without authority. Authority is an illusion. Don't think it's going to make everything better. Just influence.
It's funny. It reminds me of a quote from Rich Mironoff, who said to me once that he feels that CEOs kind of value the advice that he gives directly in proportion to the size of the invoice that he sends them afterwards. Like, I think that there is this feeling, I guess, and this is actually something that maybe makes people feel not like leaders, and something I've maybe struggled with in the past as well, earlier in my career. You know, I'm a consultant now, so people pay to listen to me, I guess. But like back then, I would sit there and maybe I would be saying or advocating for some things, and then someone would come in, like maybe an advisor or a consultant or someone else that got brought in because of some other shift or whatever. And well, no, but the problem that I had was that at the time, at least, I would sit there and I'd think, well, the things that this person has just said are the things that I was already saying, but now the CEO is listening to them, and therefore, like, where does that leave me? Like, I was saying the same things. How come they didn't listen to me? So it does go into that buy-in thing. But I guess the question at the end of that diatribe is like, what can someone who doesn't feel like a leader, who doesn't feel that they're in that situation, or maybe they don't feel that that type of input is appreciated from a rank and file worker, what do they do to start to show up more, I guess, and to become maybe more serious, taken more seriously, or become more of a visible leader when maybe people don't think that they are one?
So fundamentally, chances are the consultant knew how to present the idea in a different way than you did. And so the first step is to recognize, how are other people presenting things in a way that resonates with that individual? What kind of impact, what kind of value were they talking about in that situation that brought the idea into a different light, that made the CEO excited about that idea? Chances are it had to do with business growth or company valuation or anything else that CEOs care about. I was working with one of my clients recently, and he was talking about how they're a services company and how he wanted to get people onto the platform. Love a good platform. And
Oh, yeah.
he wanted to get the board excited about it, et cetera. And I said, you got to stop talking about it as the platform. You got to start talking about it as business value, because service revenue has a 3x multiple and SaaS revenue has an 8 to 10x revenue. And they care about business valuation. And he said, you're entirely right. And I said, yeah, but that's for the board. Your team cares about it because you now can lower costs for customer success because they don't have to be involved anymore because it's not a service. You're helping onboarding time. You're helping revenue recognition for the CFO. And so the first thing you have to do is put on your product management hat and start building empathy for your coworkers. What does each team care about?
Yep.
What are they incentivized by? What is important to them? What is it that they value? And then understand where you want to go, understand where they want to go, mesh the two, and understand every one of those where they want to go is different. So every mesh you're going to put together, every angle from what is good of your vision is going to have to switch depending on the audience. And it's different between a salesperson and a sales manager and the sales leader and the CRO. And it's not just a matter of function. It's this interesting interplay of function and title and tenure. But you have to think about, why should they care?
Yeah.
Why should they care? Why should they put their time, their energy, their budget into my idea instead of some other idea? And sometimes that comes from the way we talk. Sometimes that comes from the way we present it. Is it going to be in written form? Is it going to be in verbal form? And sometimes it's the fact that we're not presenting it at all. This is so key. Sometimes you have to talk to the person who already agrees with you and get your supporter to be activated and talk to that other party. It's not always you who has to own the message. And that mindset shift can be so crucial to you gaining influence and gaining momentum, because it isn't only about standing in front of the room and presenting. It's about what's going on in all the smaller conversations outside of that big room that yields the momentum, that yields the support, that yields everyone understanding what's in it for them.
Yeah, it reminds me of a couple of things I was actually chatting to someone earlier about, one of which is around, I think you kind of touched on it yourself, like vocabulary, like choosing the right vocabulary to have the conversation with people in terms that resonate with them.
Yeah.
Another is around, exactly as you say, like building coalitions. If there are things that you know maybe are going to have a little bit of pushback, or maybe aren't going to be automatically accepted, so to try and find people that are trusted within the organization. And yeah, I think the third one is just around making sure that you're selling things to people or you're expressing things to people in terms that resonate with problems that they already thought they had, rather than new problems that you've invented for them that kind of sound a little bit theoretical because they're kind of dressed up in words that don't mean anything to them.
Do you know what's great about what you just described? It's basic sales technique.
Oh, don't say that to product people. We've already got people saying that product people should be incentivized on sales targets.
I don't think we should be incentivized on sales, but we should be trained like salespeople are selling an idea. They're selling a future of what happens when you're using our technology. Why everyone does not have to take sales training is beyond me. Like basic sales training, because you have to sell your idea. That's where Life's a Pitch came from. I was working at a tech company in LA, and it was hackathon day. And how fun is hackathon day? And the engineers got up there and they all talked about what they had created. And not one of them knew how to talk about the value of what they created. And the executive dais was like, Oh, I don't even know how to choose between these things because they didn't talk about why it was important to the business or our customers. And so I walked up to the CTO afterwards and I said, please, please let me train your team to talk about the why.
Yep.
Because like Simon Sinek's talk was like really big back then. And, and he said, sure. And that's how I started talking about it. It's been like almost 15 years. And still, people haven't gotten the message. Sales is not a dirty word. Pitching is not a dirty word. What it's about is helping people come on board. It's helping people want to follow you, want to take their energy and pour it towards your idea instead of something else.
Yep.
And that's what leadership's about. You're leading people towards something. So everyone's a leader if you want to be.
Fingers crossed that people will listen to this and they'll take inspiration themselves from your message and try and work out how they can start to lead from the front, lead with vision themselves. But in the meantime, if they do want to come and find you after this and they like what they've heard, or maybe they don't like what they've heard, and they want to come and shout at you, but whatever it is that they want to do in your direction, where can they come and find you?
So TamiReiss.com, TamiReiss.com, you'll see all the things I do, including the PM Kids book that's going to be launching in May, because I believe we should teach small children how to lead.
Talk to us about that. Tell me about the kids book.
It is a wonderfully illustrated, interactive, rhyming book about what it is we do every day, the people we collaborate with, how products go from idea to reality. There are fun things like buzzwords such as QA, and we find our supporters and also our critics, and anything from, I even mentioned Marty Kagan at some point.
There you go. If that's not going to scare the kids off, I don't know what will.
Well, it says, some may tell you to read Kagan's Inspired, but nothing specific is really required.
So, yeah, no, I mean, obviously, as a father of children myself, don't know what age it's pitched at, but, maybe I'll wave it in front of them so they'll finally know what it is that I'm up to. But did we get to the end of your list of places that people can find you, or?
I mean, if you start there, everything else is connected, but you're right. It's technically for 6 to 8-year-olds, but it's called What Do Product Managers Do? A primer for aspiring PMs of all ages and parents who aren't sure it's a real job. So you can also give it to your teenagers or your parents who still call you a project manager. There's a whole line about that too.
Well, there you go. Well, hopefully people will come and find you at your website or maybe connect up with you on LinkedIn, follow the book and come and find out all the other stuff you do. But all I can do now is thank you ever so much for your hot take.
Thank you so much for giving me a platform for my hot take. I hope we inspire some people to start leading.